Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to April Book Club. We are discussing the compound effect this evening. I am your host, Megan Jean Smith. When you come in, as you come in, let me know that you are here. Let me know that you can hear me. Give me a little thumbs up. Tell me where you are tuning in from. So, before we get into the proceedings tonight, and just while I can see that people are starting to join, I just want to take a moment to really acknowledge you for showing up tonight to learn something. Hi, Nidhi, welcome. And I also want to acknowledge you who are watching the replay. Lots of people tune in to the Christina. Hi, welcome. Lots of people tune into the replay afterwards. So I really want to acknowledge you too and say good on you for taking the time to do something to do with your personal development. All these books are about mindset and money, and it's about expanding ourselves, expanding our knowledge, expanding our well-being, taking the great person that we are and making ourselves even better. So thank you for being here with me, and thank you for doing this for yourself. Okay, so let's get into it. Tonight, look, I've got all my notes, little post-it notes here. We are discussing the compound effect. Jumpstart your income, your life, and your success by Darren Hardy. I was recommended this book by a girlfriend of mine, and I'm so glad I read it. It's a lot of stuff that I've heard before. I mean, I've mentioned this in the little video that I did about the book early on in the month. But Darren just has a way of putting it in words that, a new perspective that I haven't looked at before. It's only 6 simple chapters. He encapsulates and simplifies a lot of information, distills it into a way that's really easy to read, really simple to digest. So I really enjoyed reading this book. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say as well. Christina, I think you mentioned during the month or even previously that you'd already read it. Am I right? Have I got that right? Or am I confusing you? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so let me just begin by, for those of you who join, who are picking up, who've never been here before, the way that this works is that I'm going to pose questions about the book. Don't worry if you haven't read the book, you are welcome. Participate the way that I will lead you tonight. It's okay if you haven't read the book, you'll still be able to follow along. The best way to get the best out of tonight is to engage. Write your comments in the comments. I read them out. It's great for everybody to hear what you have to say. I know some of you watching, obviously you can read along, but for those of you watching later, Facebook does something weird. It jumbles all the comments around. So I read them out as we go. If you're just tuning in, we're reading The Compound Effect. My name is Megan Jean Smith. I'm a money mindset and life coach for women. We do this nearly every month. I'm here on the last Thursday of the month, and we are discussing money and mindset books. And tonight it's The Compound Effect. If I can see people arriving, so as you come in, say hi, give us a wave, let us know where you are tuning in from. Okay, so Christina and Nidhi, you've been here before. The first question I always start with is, have you read the book? This is just good knowledge for me to know as we go through this evening. And of course, I'm just curious, have you read the book? Let me know in the comments. And of course, I want to know if you're in your PJs, if you're drinking tea, if you've got a wine. I have a hot lemon drink tonight. We've got little sick babies in the house, so it's just the perfect drink for me tonight. Okay, so what is the compound effect? What does that mean? I sent an email out today talking about what I think it means, but Darren says, and I've got it written here, it's the principle of reaping huge rewards from a series of small, smart choices. In the email, I talked about how I have picked up walking again. Now that it's lighter in the morning with the changeover of daylight savings, I'm getting out walking in the morning. And so many times when I go out walking, my brain just says to me, you should probably be doing more than this. This is like, this walk's not really doing much. But it's so not true. The walk is doing so much. When I'm out walking in the mornings, I really don't notice it. It doesn't feel like that big a deal. But if I go for a period of time and stop walking and don't walk, man, I feel it. Have you ever had that happen when you do some form of regular exercise, or you eat food differently, and then when you stop doing it, it's actually when you stop doing it that you realize what a positive effect that it was having on your life. Has that ever happened to you? Christina says, no. And the sad thing is I actually own this book. Oh, okay. So you did. So yeah, I think so you did say that you had it, but you haven't read it. Oh, Christina, you've got to read it. It's an easy read. And it's full of really simple and actionable steps. Nidhi says, yes, reading it more than halfway there. And I would like to say, what a great pick. Loving it. Okay, awesome, Nidhi. Love that. Yeah, so it's like we're just talking about like, what do you guys think in terms of the compound effect? So have you experienced something in your life when you didn't really think that it was doing much, but it's not until either you stop doing it or at a point once a point in time has passed that you realize what an effect that had. I've shared lots of times on the podcast how I started my share portfolio because I used to just put $30 away a fortnight saving for my daughter. And then when my second daughter came along, I started putting away $60 a fortnight, and it really just didn't feel like much money at all. It almost just was like, why am I even doing this? It's just such slow progress in the beginning. But that money quickly became $6,000 that I then went in and invested in shares. So I mean, that's the compound effect, like literally with money compounding, but the compound effect also is in our lives, just in everything that we do. What we do more of compounds, or what we do less of compounds. And it both can have a positive and a negative effect on our life, whether that's cutting something out in our life that has a positive effect on it, or cutting something out in our life that has a negative effect on us. Nidhi says, yep, it's an easy read, and I think it totally makes sense. Small steps lead to big results. Yeah, absolutely. And Nidhi, if you've got an example of something in your life where you've experienced this, I'd love for you to share. It'd be really interesting to hear other perspectives. So my interpretation of the compound effect as well is something that I actually got from Lynn Twist, the author of the book we read last month, The Soul of Money. Is she said, I'm not sure if she said it in the book. I actually have just completed a training with her, but she talks about that we're always practicing something. Okay, whether we're whether we're aware of it or not, we're always practicing something. And so what do we want to be practicing? And even the unintentional stuff, we're always practicing it in terms of that compound effect. Like if we spend our money every time we get paid, the compound effect of that is we never have any money, right? But because we're practicing not doing that. But if we even just put aside $1, $5, just that small act, we're practicing, we're getting better at doing that act of putting money away, and then we just get better at it and better at it, and more money gets put away, and that is the compound effect. It leads to more of what we want. Nidhi says, a quick example is how I got into photography with no experience at all. And by learning and practicing little by little, now I do it professionally and totally enjoy it. Yes, I love that. I love that, Nidhi. Yeah, it's like those little tiny steps in the beginning feel so insignificant. And this is what Darren talks about in the book, but it adds up. It really does. Okay, so yeah, this was another thing that stood out to me that he talked about. It's he discusses this idea of taking 100% responsibility for your life. And when I say that to you, or if somebody said that to me, of my natural response is, yeah, of course I'm 100% responsible for my life. I mean, tell me in the comments, do you feel like you're 100% responsible for your life? Yeah, totally. However, if you find yourself complaining or focusing on the negative or talking about what other people are doing, that is a sure sign that there's an area where you're not taking responsibility for your life. And for me, I'll give you an example of that. That shows up around my kids, 100%, right? Like, it's for sure the kids that are causing my bad mood, right? If they just weren't screaming, and if they just put their toys away, and if they just did what I asked them to do, I wouldn't feel this way. But, at the end of the day, actually, that's just me not taking responsibility for my own emotions, my own feelings, and the way that I show up. Like when we blame other people, it's a sign we're not taking responsibility for our own emotional well-being. And he talks a lot about that in the book. And that's the same connection that I made with practicing things and the compound effect of, do you always focus on what's going wrong, right? Is your brain always pointing out to you the negative? I'm actually doing a 21-day brain reboot that I'm sharing on Facebook and Instagram, where I'm deliberately practicing and focusing on a win and celebrating every day to shift my brain out of always going to what's not working, like what I don't have or what I don't have enough of, or when I'm not feeling enough. This is my way of creating a compound effect for myself every day by just creating that practice of focusing on what actually is working, because so many things in my life work every day that I just don't even they don't even get a look in, right? But the complaining and the stuff that goes wrong, it's like my brain is like spotlight onto those things. So I love how you can really apply what's in this book to all areas of your life. Okay, I want to read what you guys have said. Christina says, there are areas I definitely do not take 100% responsibility, and I'm working on it. Yeah, I think, Christina, it's pretty rare to come across somebody who's just practices that 24/7, right? Because we all have blind spots. And even if we're actively taking responsibility all the time, my take on it is, I like to have some compassion for myself when I get worked up about my kids, right? It's like, it's okay. We're human. We're all human. But yeah, own it, constantly coming back to that. Yes, but this is on me and it's up to me to decide and take responsibility for how I want to show up. Nidhi says, how amazing is that? We tend to put things on others, though. If you think of it, we are 100% responsible for what we get or how we react to something. It's all on us. We need to remind ourselves of that. Yes, Nidhi, absolutely. And she says, I need to start taking 100% ownership of everything. Yes, yeah, absolutely. And Nidhi, the more ownership we take over things, the more authority we have and control we have over our own lives. Anna says, I love this book. Yes. Well, Anna, you were the one who pointed this book out to me, the Compound Effect. We've just been talking, if you've just joined us, Anna, we've been talking about taking 100% responsibility and how that's a practice. And I think we all have blind spots to that as well, in areas where we're not taking responsibility, but we're not even aware of it. We don't even realize we're not. So what does he, I'm just checking my notes, guys, from keeping up to what I wanted to talk to you about. Yeah. So Darren says that we can shift or redirect the compound effect to work for us. It starts with choices. Our choices can be our best friend or our worst enemy. And he uses the word choices in the book. I think the chapter is called Choices, but I like to think of it as decisions that I make. I'm just getting it open. Yeah. So the second chapter is called Choices, and he talks all about that. It's the small choices that we make on a day-to-day basis that create the compound effect. So, for example, it's like going back to that exercise example I said about walking, or, so many of us do this, by the way, and I think it's worth pointing out, is that we discredit things. Like we want to do something in our life, like we want to become somebody who exercises every day, for example, or we want to become somebody who saves on a regular basis. But we get an idea in our mind, it's like all or nothing thinking. And it's like we need to put away $100 a week, or what's the point, right? Or we need to exercise for half an hour a day, or what's the point? And I want to put it out there that what if we could just exercise for 5 minutes? Or what if just 1 minute was enough? And when it comes to money, and I talk about this on the podcast, what if just 1% was enough, right? Like, just if you've never developed a habit before where you save money, what if you just saved 1% of your money? And you just did that on a regular basis. I mean, 1% is so small that you don't even notice it. But the tricky thing is we think we consider that that's so insignificant. Why bother, right? But it's those little incremental choices that we make, those decisions that we make. You know what? I'm just going to do 5 minutes of exercise. And, over a week, what's that? That's 35 minutes of exercise. Now, yeah, okay, it's only 35 minutes, but also it's 35 minutes of exercise that you wouldn't have otherwise have done. And then you develop the habit, which is the next thing that he starts to talk about, is that we create a habit and then it just becomes like a thing that we do. Like, I want to ask you, do you clean your teeth every day? Like, I for sure clean my teeth every day. I don't even have to think about it. It's not something I struggle to do. Cleaning my teeth is just a no-brainer. It happens every day without fail. And we can create those same habits with other things in our life. The only reason why we're all cleaning our teeth every day is because we've just done it every day since we were a kid. It's just part of our life. Right. And the compound effect of that is that we still have our teeth in our mouth, right? We don't have dentures or whatever because we look after our teeth. And that's just something that has become habit. I mean, really just think about like just the incidental everyday things that you do. From both perspectives, like the things that have a positive effect in your life that you do that you just don't even think about that you do. And then also the things, this is a good opportunity to open the door to think about what are the habits that you do that you don't think about, that you're not even making a conscious choice each day to do it, right? Like for an example, something, the first thing that comes to mind is maybe you have wine every night with dinner, right? Because it's just something that you've got into the habit of doing, even though maybe some nights actually you don't want wine, but it just becomes a habit. It's like, oh, I just have a glass of wine with dinner. That's what I do, right? And I'm not saying that's a negative or a positive thing, but it's just there's things that we do in our life that maybe we need to take time to redecide. Are these things that we want to continue to do, or are these things that we want to stop doing? Let me have a look. Anna says there's always places to level up ownership. Yes, 100%, Anna. In all areas of our life, and we can drop off in areas, I think, and then just pick up again. You know, that there's no it's not a big deal. Like if it drops off, we can just pick it up again. Yeah, so it's about our behaviors and choices that we make every day and whether we're deciding that we're deliberately doing it or not. Are we doing it unintentionally? Are there areas of your life where you have picked up a habit that is unintentional? You know, like social media for me is one that has just become habit to look at my phone. It is such a practiced action that I do now, just looking at my phone. And it's one of those things that, you know, every now and again I have some moments where I'm like, you know what? I don't want to look at my phone that often. But it's actually something that I need to break the habit of. And he talks about that I'm jumping ahead, but I think, where does he talk about it? Now I've lost the page. He talks about ways to create habits and ways to break habits. Sorry, I'm just trying to find where it is in the book. I'll come back to it. I'll get back to it because I can't find it in this moment. But, you know, stuff like, okay, I'm just going to go with the examples that come to my head. It's like if you are somebody who wants to cut down your drinking, I mean, maybe things that you do are you stop doing things that create that around your life, you know, just to give you a break. Or like for my phone example, sometimes what I do is I put it in my drawer so I can't see it, just to give myself a break from that automation of just seeing it and picking it up and checking it before it's like it happens unconsciously before I'm even deliberately doing it. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, so in terms of making choices in your life and looking at areas of where you want to change, what I love about this book, and Christina, this is something that you can do when you go back in and read the book, is at the end of every chapter, there are exercises and questions. And one of the things that Darren talks about at the end of the making choices is he says, what area, person, or circumstance in your life do you struggle with the most? Start journaling all the aspects of that situation that you are grateful for. Keep a record of everything that reinforces and expands your gratitude in that area. And, I like this in different ways, because it's one, looking at shifting your perspective, like how he says, start journaling all the aspects that you're grateful for. So for me, relating it to this, like an area that that I struggle with sometimes is that I get annoyed with my kids, and I feel like it happens too automatically. Like sometimes I kind of jump to being annoyed with them, that when it's not, maybe doesn't warrant really that much strong emotion. And one of the things that, I can do, and which really helps, and using this example, is talking about all the amazing stuff about my kids and all the just beautiful things that they do, and the things that I love about them, and the things that I appreciate about them. And that really does shift my focus. I mean, look, come on, I'm going to be totally authentic with you. In the moment, sometimes that's really challenging for me to do. But as a practice of really just reframing and shifting my attention on the stuff that I love and adore about them, instead of focusing on, the fact that they've left their toys all over the floor, right? It's a way to really reframe and make those small choices. Nidhi says, yeah, that's a beautiful exercise. Yeah, and Nidhi, and that's kind of what I'm doing in my 21-day brain reboot, like just refocusing my attention on the things that I want to be focusing on. Nidhi says that, that I get to perspective rather than I have to. Yes, Nidhi, I love that. It's like I get to clean my bathroom because I want to clean my bathroom, because I want to have a clean bathroom, as opposed to I have to clean my bathroom. Yeah, that is brilliant. And such a great perspective to be able to have. Okay, I'm going to move on, because there's lots of things that I want to ask you about. So one of the parts of this book that really stood out to me big time, and I want to read it to you, is hey Colleen, welcome. I didn't know that you were hiding around there. Colleen says addition instead of subtraction. Yes. Where can we expand? What can we bring into our lives rather than what we're cutting out? Yeah, I love that. So why he talks about on page, he starts talking about on page 59, and it goes on to page 60, and I want to read a little bit of it to you. So when we're trying to create new things in our life, right? Like we want to create, for example, our financial future for ourselves, like our retirement, let's say, or we want to create a new exercise habit. One of the things that is often missing when it comes to trying to create something new in our life is a compelling reason. And like, what is your why? Why are you setting a goal? And I'd really love to know, guys, like while I'm reading this, if you can tell me, do you set goals? And if you do, why do you set goals? And if you don't, why? I'm really curious. Like I would love if you would tell me in the comments, and I'm going to read this, what he talks about having a reason. So he says, if I were to put a 10-inch wide, 30-foot long plank on the ground and say, if you walk the length of the plank, I'll give you $20. Would you do it? Of course, it's an easy $20. But what if I took that same plank and made a rooftop bridge between 200-story buildings? That same $20 for walking the 30-foot plank no longer looks desirable or even possible, does it? right? No way. There is no way I would walk on a plank of wood between two buildings that were 100-story high for $20. Forget it. But then he says, however, if your child was on the opposite building and that building was on fire, would you walk the length of that plank to save him or her? Without question, and immediately you would do it, whether you got the $20 or not. And I mean, that is an extreme example. But when we want to do something more with our lives, like in terms of reach a goal, one aspect that is so often missing is our compelling reason. Like, why are we doing this? Like, why is this important? And when you can connect, like, I mean, really connect with your reason why, that really gives us a reason to actually follow through with these choices that we're making, with these new habits that we're developing, because of the reason behind why we're doing it. Okay, let me have a look. Nidhi said, love the concept of why power. Yeah, Nidhi, so powerful. Anna says, heck yes, I set goals. Christina says, I set goals and I do it in order to achieve the life I envision for myself. Yeah, I love that, Christina. And Nidhi says, yes, I set goals. And Christina, that's something actually that I wanted to talk about too. So one of the things that that I do with my clients, actually my coaching clients, and Darren talks about this in the book, is he says, and I've just lost it in my notes. Oh yeah, so ask the question, who do I need to become to reach this goal? Okay, so Christina, in terms of when you're envisaging the future that you want, a great question to ask is, who do I need to become to reach that goal? Because so often what we do, and it's not wrong, right? But so often what we do is we think about what we have to do to reach the goal, right? And we make the to-dos more important than who we need to become to reach that goal. And so what I mean about that is, it's like, if you want to be a financially independent person, for example, who do you need to become to reach that goal? Like, do you need to be somebody who is comfortable with having a lot of money, right, in your bank account? And are you somebody who's comfortable with a lot of money in your bank account now? Right? Because if you're not, like, if when money comes in, you spend it straight away, like that's a behavior that you have, then this question is such a beautiful way to connect with who you need to become to reach your goals. Because if you were financially independent, what would that look like? What would be the same about you? What would be different? What would you need to change? So I really encourage you to, yes, envision who you want to be, Christina, in the future, like with your goal. That is so powerful. But also just like really imagining, like, what kind of person are you in that goal? Are there things that you need to change? And are there things about you that are already living that goal? Like parts of you that already embody that person who reaches that goal, that parts of you that you can really embrace? And are there parts of you that are going to need to change if you want to reach that goal? Okay. So, all right. That's right. I wanted to talk to you about habits, and I was looking at completely the wrong page. But one of the things before we go into that, just talking about goals and why we set them, and Darren explains it beautifully in the book, is he says, you only see, experience, and get what you look for. If you don't know what to look for, you certainly won't get it. And he talks about how we have so much stimulation coming to us every day, right? There's so many things around us happening all the time. And if we took it all in consciously, we would go bonkers, right? Because there's too much happening. There's too much stimulus all around us. So our brain filters out for what it thinks is important, what we've programmed it for, if you will. Like if you imagine our brain is a computer program, it shows us what files we're clicking on, right? And if you want so when you set a goal for something, like let's say you're setting a financial goal or a business goal, Nidhi, like I'm starting a photography business, right? Suddenly your brain starts seeing all of the things to do with that goal. And it's not because suddenly everybody has a yellow car because you've got a goal to buy a yellow car. No, those yellow cars have always been there. It's just you've programmed your brain to now look for those yellow cars. And so it sees those yellow cars. So opportunities arise. Those opportunities have always been there. You just weren't looking for them. All right. And that's why, yes, Nidhi, the whole law of attraction thing, like the whole law of attraction thing to me sounds so woo, like the way that it's presented, but it's not woo at all. I mean, it's just like the way that our brain works. It's, yes, what we put out, like what we're telling our brain to look for, we attract it to ourselves because it already exists in the world. But now we've just turned our brain on to look and see those things and what to focus on. Yeah, so I love that. And I love this whole section that he talks about in goal setting in the book in regards to that. And okay, so page 75, I was in the total wrong section, guys. That's why I couldn't find it before. This is what he talks about in terms of habits. And yes, Nidhi, it's rewiring our brain to attract the right things. Totally. And it's actually also literally creating new neural pathways. Like if you are somebody who has never run a business before, for instance, you don't have thoughts in your brain like I'm a businesswoman, or I successfully manage my money, or I know what to do with money in business, right? I mean, maybe you do have those thoughts if you've been exposed to that stuff before, but when you attune yourself to that, that's when you start learning those things and becoming that person, because you really do create those new pathways in your brain. And one of the things that we need to do too is break pathways in our brain. I mean, I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but it's like when we have habits that we do all the time, we've created these neural pathways, like these habits in our brain that we need to break. And this is what what Darren talks about in it's page 75, where he's looking at the triggers, like things that trigger you, like when you feel glum, for instance, and you get a notification in your email for a sale that's on at Uniqlo, do you then go and buy yourself some clothes, right? Is that a trigger for you? Like when you're feeling glum and then you see ads, right? It's like breaking these habits. And I mean, it works best when we do it at the brain level, but the surface stuff we can do is like things like unsubscribe from those sales emails, right? But it's learning how to disconnect from the habits that we've already started and rewiring. He talks about ways that you can ease into creating new habits, like what I talked about earlier. Like maybe you want to start a new exercise habit and you just start with doing 5 minutes, because you just build up. Maybe you want to be able to do half an hour a day, but you just start with 5 minutes or start with 1 minute. Or maybe you want to have an amazingly strong savings habit, but you have never saved before. So it's like you just start with putting away something that you'll barely miss, like 1% or $20 or whatever that is for you, to just build that muscle, create that new habit and break the old ones. Okay, so Once you've developed habits, then he talks about building momentum. And let me get to that. That's on page 115 for those of you following along at home. So he's got some little exercises in there, like building a morning routine. He has exercises at the end of the chapter, but it's just like that momentum when you get started with something. Like, keep coming back to this example of the saving money or the doing exercise. I set a goal a couple of years ago that I was going to do yoga every day. And at first it sort of seemed like, whoa, yoga every day. But then I just got into it and it just became like, this is what we do. We do yoga every day. Like, I broke that habit, by the way, and I think I need to start that one again because that was a really positive habit in my life, and created a beautiful compound effect for the health of my body. But we can break habits and we can start habits. They go either way. Nidhi says every little bit helps. Yeah. So Darren actually has worksheets and PDFs and things that you can download from his website that go along with all of this stuff. So I encourage you to, if you've got the book, you can go into the resource section and get a hold of everything that he has to offer, and it's all for free. And then when you've got the momentum going, he then talks about accelerating that. And one of the things with that, and this is something that I think is really interesting when it comes to developing new goals, is that surrounding yourself with people who are on board with that. And that can be equally fun as it is painful. And talking from my own experience in building a business and changing careers and doing things completely differently in my life, I did surround myself with people who were also doing that. I have a lot of friends, new friends now, and colleagues who are also building businesses, who are coaches. I associate now with a lot of people who are interested in creating wealth and prosperity in their life and are doing really amazing, cool things with money in the world, and who are really positive about money and having money. And that was a little journey that I had to go through, and there are some people who have dropped off, right? Because in terms of creating these habits and creating this life that I wanted, I realized that it's like I love you and I'm letting you go, right? Like, it's not about I don't want to be with you anymore, but it's just about being around people who want what you want and who are going for what you want to go for, right? Because really, if you're not walking down the same path as someone, it's harder to get to where you want to go when you're kind of trying to still be around these people on a different path, on a different journey. Has that happened to you? Is that something that you've experienced where you've made a change? Nidhi, I know you were talking about how you've started doing your photography, and I mean, I directly experience this. There's new people who have come into my life doing the new things that I have been doing. Now I know people with podcasts and I know people with businesses, and I associate with people who do that. Whereas in the past, I didn't really have those people in my life. And then people that were in my life who were just totally not interested in any of that stuff. I don't tend to hang out with them as much because it's not, that sounds wrong, because it's not like people who aren't interested in what I'm doing aren't my friends or anything like that. But just what I mean is that people who aren't on board with supporting those things that I want to do, like if they, are negative about investing, or they find that talking about money is a bad taste for them and they don't want to be around it, or they poo-hoo what I do, then it's like, yeah, okay, well, obviously I'm not in alignment with this person anymore, right? And that's okay. Like, they can be them and I can be me, but surrounding yourself with people who are on board with what you're doing. That was a very long-winded way of saying what I wanted to say. Nidhi says, yes, I have made new friends in the last few years since I started doing photography who share the same passion. Yeah. And that's how you accelerate. I mean, that's how, you'll be with that group of friends talking about f-stops and, DPI and like getting things printed. And I don't know if you know this, Nidhi, but I used to work as a professional photographer for many years. So there's a whole nother language that's associated with when you do something that you're passionate in that other people just aren't interested in, and that's totally fine. But to move yourself forward, you want to be around people who are doing what you want to do. Okay, so I'd really like to know, as we come to a close, what was your biggest takeaway? Like, what's your biggest takeaway so far from what you've read, and or just from tonight? What's your biggest takeaway? Nidhi says, yeah, that's what I used to do, Nidhi, in another life. Yep. I don't know, you might have heard me talk on the podcast before about how I sold a whole heap of camera gear. It's because that's what I used to do. As one person, I close down in photography and you start up. So good. It's an amazing activity to be involved in. Yeah, I love photography. All right. So, and I wanted to read, you let me know what your takeaway is, but I wanted to read what he puts at the end of the book before we end. So he says, I have one more valuable success principle to pass along to you. Whatever I want in life, I've found that the best way to get it is to focus my energy on giving to others. If I want to boost my confidence, I look for ways to help someone else feel more confident. If I want to feel more hopeful, positive, and inspired, I try to infuse that in someone else's day. If I want more success for myself, the fastest way to get it is to go about helping someone else obtain it. I love this so much. I think this is so powerful. When you want something in your life, you help somebody else get it. You help somebody else create it, just on a day-to-day basis. And I think that is such a beautiful way to create more of what you want. Nidhi says, so far, I'd say my biggest takeaway is finding a big enough why to keep going. Yes. I love that, Nidhi. Yeah, 100%. So there you have it, guys. The compound effect. For those of you who are watching later, and if you haven't read it, this is the book. You can find the book. There's a video of what I discuss about the book, and all the information about the book and other books in Book Club are on the Money Mindful website here. Everything that I do in regards to the books on Book Club, I put them on the website. You can buy the book through the website. That's there for your convenience. Full disclosure, I receive a very small commission if you buy it through my website on Amazon. If I do interviews with people whose book we're doing in Book Club, I also put it all on the Book Club page on the website. So it's a great resource to go to. And also there's lists of books that I have read there, and just my thoughts on those books and what stands out to me and what I recommend. So speaking of next month, we are reading Chasing Cupcakes by Elizabeth Benton. This is an incredible book. And on first glance, you may be mistaken in thinking that it is a book about weight loss. But this is a book about becoming and up-leveling your thinking. It's about becoming an amazing thinker in order to make changes in your life. I interviewed Elizabeth Benton, and the interview is coming out next week on the Money Mindful podcast. It is a really incredible interview that I did with her. We got a bit emotional. I did not expect it to go down that route. I can't recommend this book highly enough. Just the content in this book, the questions that she poses, the way that she helps you reframe and ask really quality questions about your life. It is worth like 10 times what you would pay for the book. Join in next month for book club. This is what we're reading. Go to the Money Mindful website. Go to the book club page. You can find out more information about it. Tune in next week to the interview that I do with Elizabeth Benton. And that will be our last book club for this first half of the year. I'll be taking a break in June. There'll be no book club in June, and then we'll pick up again in July. And I'll let you know soon what books I have for later in the year. I'm currently have them now. I'm reading them and just vetting them because I want to make sure that I think that they're really good books to share with you in book club. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. Let me just touch base in the comments before I say goodbye. Christina says, my biggest takeaway is that I'm 100% responsible for my life, and it's my job to foster the ship, so to speak. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, Christina. The more responsibility you take for your life, the more authority and power you have over the results that you create in your life. Nidhi, thank you again for joining this evening. And thank you to everyone who's watching this later in the replays. If you are getting a lot out of book club and you love this direction of diving deeper into your life and what you want to create in your life, I'd like to invite you to find out about working with me. I work with a very limited amount of clients one-on-one in my coaching practice. I work one-on-one. The only way that you can work with me is by booking a consult with me first, because we find out whether we're a good fit and whether I am the right person for you to create the results that you want in your life. We spend an hour together. Just from the consult alone, which is complimentary, I take you through exactly where you're at in your life now. We look at exactly what you want to create in your life, the results that you want to create, and then I bridge that gap for you on the call. So even if we're not a good fit for whatever reason, I would recommend someone else that you could work with, and I bridge that gap for you, and we make a plan of how you can get from where you are now to where you want to be. It's a really valuable way to spend an hour of your time. So I really encourage you that if you want to take this work deeply, you can do that by booking a consult with me on my website, which is just here now, the Money Mindful website. All right. Until I see you again next month, have a beautiful month. Thank you for this evening. Mwah. Bye-bye.